Hey, what's going on guys? Zedd here, bringing another Soul Calibur 6 video. I'm gonna do another Xianghua top 5 tips, or Xianghua 5 tips, whatever you want to call it video, as I haven't done a Xianghua specific video in quite some time, and it's been a lot of matchup stuff lately, so I want to have a little more fun, as I don't really enjoy doing the matchup videos, to be honest. And I'm gonna show you 5 things with Xianghua that you should be doing if you don't already know. If you already know, kudos to you, or hopefully show you something to consider maybe in the matchup when you're playing against Xianghua. So first up, I'm going to point out her command throw. So Xianghua's command throw is 214 A plus G. It looks like this. So it does 40 damage and leads to a really good Oki situation. And you can see that there's no distance between us. Now, if we look at what the opponent, or first off, and it's plus on break. So if I've already pre-recorded it here, but the opponent, if they break it, it doesn't really matter. We're +8, so it's our turn. What I had them set to do, just in case you don't believe me, is I had it set to do 4BB, very fast attack. Oh, it didn't come out there. Come on. There we go. So we beat that because we're +8, so we're allowed to do something that's a little slower, right? So like any command throw, it is plus on break. So just keep that in mind. The second thing about it is even if the opponent gets hit by it, that's still a good situation for you, and you can set up any kind of Oki game you want. So my first tip in general is to use the command throw and take advantage of the Oki situation or the frame data that it gives you. Because if you do connect with it, you can set up things like a full crouch 3B, full crouch 3B. You can go for the 1K A mix, so on. Okay, so tip number 1 is to use her command throw more than you probably already do. Or if you don't use it, use it. Tip number 2 is note that if you get a counter hit that leaves you plus or some kind of crumple stun on hit, that you can transition into full crouch 3AA and it becomes a natural hit. So in general, right, if we're not talking if we're talking regular hit, you'll notice that full crouch 3AA is not a natural combo, right? So I'll show you. See how she's able to block there, right? And same thing with the B option. If you were to get a counter hit on a low, then all of a sudden it becomes feasible. So actually this probably isn't the best way to show it. The best way to show that is I'll get the bot to do 2A, because on counter hit we're plus, and puts her in a crouch state, 2A into full crouch 3AA, and you will see that I will try to block it, okay? So we're going to do this, into this. See that? All I did was hold guard, and yet it natural comboed. So the idea here is that it actually carries over the counter hit properties of the move you previously used, and it allows you to basically get free damage and pressure. And it's quite a strong natural combo, or in this case counter hit combo, and it also leads to wall spot as well. So if we take it over here, and I get the bot to do it, see that? And you can get follow-ups and so on. So tip number 2 is to take advantage of any kind of counter hit that puts you into a full crouch, or counter hit on plus frames that you have enough time to go into instant full crouch 3AA, and note that full crouch 3AA is a natural combo on counter hit in general, right? So if I do this, and we do this, you'll see that, there you go, 44 damage. Tip number 3, it is a method of, so one of the biggest things with 2-2 and 8-8B is that sometimes you go to step a move and then you end up walking back into it if it has, say, a decent active hitbox, right? And it kind of sucks, which means you're more incentivized to use this move, but sometimes it whiffs if they're advancing, and it's launch punishable by some characters anyway. So it's not a great option in comparison to 2-2B, like as a direct replacement. This has its own niche uses, but we're not going to get into that. So one thing you can do, so this is tip number 3, one thing you can do is you can actually buffer it in a way that allows you to continue stepping the correct direction. Now admittedly this is a lot easier on hitbox than it is on pad. I'm currently doing this video on pad, so I'll do the best I can, but it won't be as clean as it is when I'm on my hitbox. But here's what I mean. I'm just going to get the opponent to block here just for sake of simplicity. So if you're doing something, and say it ends in plus frames, right? So let's say we're doing, I don't know, 4-4 A hold, and you wanted to, for whatever reason, do 2-2B. So, you know, say we're at the wall, because it's a pretty solid option, right? What you want to do is 2-2B, we're going to use 2-2B as the example here, or rather 8-8B, sorry. 8-8B is going to become 2-2B. So you want to do 8-8B, and then slide your pad down to 2, and then let it rip. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Like that. So if you buffer your sidestep and then hold the direction that you want to go in with the move, you'll just carry on that direction. Now say you're just doing it in neutral, the same concepts still apply, right? And if you want to just do it really quickly, you can always do that as well. Just be careful that you don't get 4-4B like that, or 6-6B like this. Right? So you have to be clean with it. It's a little trickier on pad, but you know, stick is a lot easier and hitbox is a lot easier. But to reiterate, tip number 3 is if you're worried about sidestepping with 2-2B, if that's your goal with it, then you should be trying to buffer the direction you're actually using it instantly. Like, you can do this super quick. See that? With a little bit of practice, it's quite easy. So tip number 4, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning or in one of the earlier tips. Tip number 4 is to take advantage of 1K slide A or 1K. So I'm going to go over each of those moves and why they're kind of a big deal. So 1K slide A is it is -10, so it is punishable in some cases, right? So you can see there, I hold G and nothing, right? But it does come with follow-ups, right? You can do the multi-flip kick into 2 different actions, right? So the full sequence looks like this: the low or the mid. Now here's the problem: you can step both of those options, or you can GI the last hit, and you can GI the second flip kick, which there's nothing we can do about it, right? Because this is just 1K AA, yet it's a 3-hit move. So you'll see here that if I get the bot to block the first 2 and then GI the third, like that, there's nothing we can do about it. However, if the opponent happens to have an I-10, and so they can actually punish it, this becomes even more interesting because here we go. Right? So we can actually stuff their counter hit. Otherwise, the opponent has to take it and wait for the second flip kick and GI it, or be super risky and GI the first one initially, which would look something like this, right? Not really going to happen. Reversal edge, a little bit of a nicer option, but still not great. Because since we are -10, if the opponent did want to go for reversal edge, let's say just instantaneous here, right? Oh, no. Held. Right. We do have time to step. We have time to react. It's tricky with the bot settings, but you can get the idea, right? So it's not really a good situation, especially if a character doesn't have an I-10. And that's the biggest issue here. So if they don't have an I-10, we're -10, but they can't really take their turn because of the existence of the follow-up. Now, this mix-up ironically only works if the opponent is aware of the Xianghua matchup. So, and it's a Horian bid, which is also just good anyway. So, this gains value the better players you play against. There is a tech duck in here as well. It is a minor sidestep, but not enough to seriously sidestep anything. So this is going to force them to make a move. Now here's where the mix comes into play. Not only can you loop this a couple times and demand their respect, but you can also do things like, well, the 1K obviously. So 1KA versus 1K, 1KA, 1KA, 1K, so on, so on, so on, right? These 2 moves are a mix because of the fact it's only -10 on block on the mid. The low is more punishable and easier to avoid, but the point is that the mid is like free pressure. So it is worth using for sure. At times, like, don't spam it. Like, this isn't a game plan by any means, but just be aware of it, right? Just be aware of it, as it is a good option. So to reiterate, tip number 4 is to use 1K slide A and 1K Sometimes. Learn it, live it, and love it. And tip number 5, this is something that I've been doing for months now, and I've been trying to advocate that this is the best way to play the Xianghua. And some players don't agree yet, but I feel as the better players get, they will. So tip number 5 is more of an overarching concept. Play Xianghua like you only ever get a single move per turn, at least frequently. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by that. So you're in a game and your opponent is familiar with the matchup, so they're going to know that box stepping Xianghua, which is back then sideways, okay. The reason you do back then sideways as opposed to sideways then back is it's a lot faster, since sideways has more recovery frames than backstep. And you can cancel backstep with sidestep, but you can't cancel sidestep with backstep. Okay, so you can see here, like even if we input it right away, this is the fastest she can do, whereas here we can jitter out right away. So that's a box step. Anyway, so the opponent is aware of this. They're aware that backstepping Xianghua is a pretty good option, so on, so on, so on, and making you whiff everything. Like 3A, right? They're going to backstep, and then you're going to whiff. Or 2A, you're going to whiff. Or AA, you're going to whiff. So Xianghua has some options to chase the step. The problem is they're all incredibly linear, or they're incredibly risky. So, for example, a lot of new Xianghua players will do something in the realm of like 6BB, right? And think that this is going to catch, you know, catch a backstep. Well, no, it's definitely not a good idea, because even if you get the counter hit and you go into full conversion, okay, yeah, 57 damage, cool. But what if you're wrong? If you're wrong, here's what happens, right? I'll get the bot to do it, and I'll just respond with what I would do. So, you know, 6BB. Problem with this move, especially at range, is if the opponent does backstep, the second hit or the first hit's just gonna whiff anyway. So say, you know, this is a pretty acceptable range for a lot of the casts, right? They backstep, you've whiffed. And so now that second hit, they have the choice. They can either, right? They can either GI it, right? Okay, whatever. You get the idea. They can either GI it, thank you, or they can step it. Now, if they go to step it, that's really good for them. But that's where you as the Xianghua player are allowed to be like, alright, I see you, fam. Let's do this. Well, here's the problem with doing this. If they're already at the range to backstep the 6B, what do you think is going to happen if you go for the 6BA? Right? It's still going to be GIable. They're still going to be able to avoid it. And if they're a character with a better backstep like Ivy, she'll actually backstep both options. Or if they're a little farther away, right? So, oops. Okay, wow, the A actually hit me there. The point being, it's easily identifiable. Plus, you know, you can actually just OS it entirely with a box step, right? So this motion will always dodge the 6BB, and then block the 6A, which is punishable. So, and I'll prove that to you. So even if, you know, I'm trying to do it before she does the animation to make the read, right? See that? It doesn't retrack. That's the problem. It doesn't retrack. The 6BB doesn't follow the opponent, right? So this is kind of like a multi-tip in one, okay? So keep that in mind for 6BB and 6BA. So instead, the Xianghua player might think, oh, let's use 6-6B. Okay, well, here's the problem with 6BB and its follow-ups. Let's do 6-6BB, right? So you can GI that one. You can step it to her left. And then if she goes for the held version, that's a very easy step or GI. Right? Or if she goes for this, that's fine, but you as the opponent, you just have to make sure that you don't swing with a vertical here, right? And if you do, just wait, right? Sidestep and wait, because there's a hell of a lot of time between this in order for you to actually like get the punish compared to a lot of other like 2-hit sequences like this, right? Bad example, but you get the idea. So, to the tip. if you try to use things like 6B, 6-6B, 3A, 2A, 4-4A, they're all going to be backstepped, okay? Box stepped even. So, what I suggest for you, in general, is to just start single tapping things. Get the opponent backstepping for no reason. Get the opponent sidestepping for no reason. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean doing things like a raw 4B with nothing, and then maybe even 4B into forward step, right? Or 4B into, jitter forward, or 6B into just guarding once or twice, like here or there. Get them kind of, paying attention to what you're doing, right? Or even just doing 6K. 6K is a great move, in general. But the best offenders for this kind of playstyle are definitely 4B and 5B. 5B is incredibly strong for Xianghua because you'll notice that on block, notice how it doesn't really push them all that far, and I'll get you to get them to do, I don't know, let's just say BB, right? Sure, we're minus. I'm pretty sure it's -4, if I remember correctly. But the point being is that because of our frame data, we're allowed to move against their retaliation now. See that? So if we 5B and we go for the step, we're in there. Or 5B. Oh. See? Right? Wow, that hit me. You get the point. You get the point. Right? So you can 5B into sidestep and then punish, or you can, 5B into 2A if they went to do a high. In this case, I would just have her doing a vertical. Or you can 5B into GI. You could 5B into an auto GI. Like, 5B opens up more of Xianghua's offensive game plan, and the opponent's going to sit there and wait for the 5BB. Now, granted, there's nothing they can really do about 5BB, as it's a jailing string anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the point is, 5BB doesn't quite give you the same opportunities. Because if you go to step against, like, I don't know. If you go to step, things will catch you a bit easier. But also, the raw 5B kind of makes them second guess every other thing you're going to do. So this is like a mental pressure thing. Right? That's my point here. Is that 5B raw will open up so many other doors for you, depending on the matchup, obviously. So if you're playing against, say, Amy, right, with I don't have an I-10 vertical, obviously, on this character, but if you're playing against Amy with, 6B, right, let's just use our 4B, for example, here. You're allowed to all of a sudden, start ducking that, or even, stepping that. So on, so on, so on, right? So raw 5B, use it a lot, it's very good. Raw 4B, very same thing. And another move, it's not a single hit, but like it kind of fits in this idea, is 8-8 or 2-2-A. It's very good on block. It's only -2, which is super good, right? And it just lets you, get away with things in general. So it's really good, and there's a tech deck in there as well. On hit, too, you'll see it actually turns the opponent around, which is super good, because if the opponent is not aware of that, or even if they are, the moves they have access to will not be the same as what they would normally have. Right? See that? So that's a back turn B, or like, a back turn K, or if they went to do like, I don't know, a dual input move, for example. Let's just pick, I don't know, let's just pick 6A plus B, right? See that? It gives them their A plus B break attack, and they may not even, like, it may be a total accident, right? It happens all the time. There's not much you can do about it, right? So all of a sudden, this is free for us. And if you want to be super cheeky and you want to step after it, that's really going to screw up anything they do. Because even if we had her do something like, I don't know, let's just say 6BA, right? Or if she turned around at 6BA, all of a sudden you'd be stepping the 6B, right? So in general, moves like this, right? I'll show you other examples. 2B, very good. 5B, very good. 4B, very good. 6K, not bad. 4K, not bad. 2A, super good. Raw 5AA, not bad. Against, as long as you're not against an I-10 character, and if you are, you can usually do things like this. Usually. So anyway, yeah, so that's tip number 5. Very drawn out, but tip number 5 is to start getting more used to stagger pressure, which is something more common in other fighters like Mortal Kombat and anime games. Try to take that concept over to Xianghua. It does work. It's very good, and it's kind of the best way to play her and apply pressure, because really, realistically, there's no reason to respect a Xianghua and there's no reason to duck against a Xianghua. So if there's no reason to duck against a Xianghua and we have T-Rex arms, for throws, then the only way we can enforce respect is by constantly jabbing the opponent out of their turn attempts, right? So in general too, GI is a really good mechanic for Xianghua, as her post-GI game is super good. So that's bonus tip number 6. Take advantage of your post-GI situations, right? Like off of a GI, she gets, off a post-GI rather, we get this, you get that, you can even cancel it if you want to like bait it, right? We get 4-4A hold, we get 5AA on a level 1 GI, we get CE on a level 2 or 3 GI. Like there's a lot of stuff that Xianghua can do in the post-GI game. 2K if you just want to secure the round, and so on, so on, so on. The list goes on. So take advantage of her post-GI bonus tip number 6. I've gone on way too long here. I'm going to wrap it up there. Let me know in the comments if any of these tips helped you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.